All right, now let's move this logic for calculating the remaining balance after each month to our mortgage calculator class. Now here we have to do this manually. We cannot use IntelliJ because it's a special kind of refactoring. So I'm going to copy these two lines here. Now back to our mortgage calculator class. Let's declare a new method, public. We want to return a double array because we want to return a list of numbers. Now technically we could also use one of the collection classes in Java. We haven't covered them yet. We're going to talk about them in the next part of this series. So for now, let's just use an array because we talked about arrays in the first part of this series. So we're going to call this getRemainingBalances. Now we paste the code that we copied. We're missing one right brace, so let's add that. So here we have a compilation error because we have a reference to this calculator object, but we are inside the calculator class. So we don't really need this. We can call the getYears method, but we can also use the years field directly here. That is better. Next, we have mortgage calculator, the months in year. Once again, because we're inside this mortgage calculator class, we don't really need to repeat this. So let's remove it. Now, what is this expression? This is the expression that we refactored earlier and moved to a method called getNumberOfPayments. So let's reuse that method, getNumberOfPayments. That's better. Next, we need to call the calculateBalance method. Let's remove the reference to this calculator object. So we get the balance after each month. Now we need to store it in our array. So let's declare an array on the top, double array. We call it balances and set it to a new double array. Now, what is the size of this array? It should be equal to the number of payments. So once again, we call getNumberOfPayments. So here's our array declaration. We can simplify this by replacing this type with var. That is better. So we calculate the balance after each month. Now we need to store it in this array. So balances of month minus 1. We have to subtract 1 here because the month starts from 1. But as you know, the index of the first element in an array is 0. So we store the balance here, and finally we're going to return our array. Now we can make this code even shorter. We don't really need to declare this variable. It's quite clear that we're calculating the balance after a given month. So let's refactor this. Control T. Here we're going to use the inline command. Unfortunately, it's not visible. So I'm going to bring it up from the top. Refactor, inline. So we want to inline all references and remove that variable. Refactor. So our local variable is gone. That's better. Now we have a single statement in our for loop, so we can get rid of these curly braces and clean up the code even more. Now, one more thing. We have repeated getNumberOfPayments twice here. We can replace the second reference with the length of the array because they are equal. So we can type balances.length. All right, so we're done with this method. Now back to our mortgage report class. We no longer have to repeat this logic here. We can do something much better. So let me write that code so we can compare them side by side. We're going to call calculator.getRemainingBalances. This returns a double array, so we can use the for each loop to iterate over this array and get one balance at a time. So we type for double balance colon. So in each iteration, we get a new balance. Then we're going to copy this line for printing the balance and paste it over here. So we replaced these few lines with these two lines. Now, it's not about the number of lines here. It's about the logic. Next time, I want to show the list of balances in another application. We don't have to repeat this logic. We can simply call calculator.getRemainingBalances. Now, let me show you something interesting. In our previous implementation, we called the getYears method and multiplied the return value by months in year. With this new implementation, we don't need to see this getter from the outside, so we can make it private, or even better, delete it. So back to our mortgage calculator class. Let's scroll down. Here's our getter. Let's find all the usages before we delete this. So it's used only in a single place, which is where I showed you. Now we can safely delete this getter and make this code cleaner. Now back to our mortgage report class. Now look at this expression. Mortgage calculator, months in year. Now we can make this field private, so it's not visible from the outside. It's going to be part of the implementation. So once again, we're going to apply the abstraction principle and simplify the interface of our calculator class. So back to our mortgage calculator, let's go to the top. Let's find all the usages of this field. So we have used it twice inside this calculator class and once inside our report class. We're going to get rid of that. So it's perfectly safe to make this private. What about %? We only have a single usage of this field, and that is inside our calculator class. So we can make this private as well. So we're hiding all these implementation details. If we change this implementation in the future, the classes that depend on the mortgage calculator are not going to get broken. Now back to our report class. So we're done with this, and we can safely delete the old implementation. Our code is getting better and better with every refactoring.